Welcome to Simplifying Rational Fractions, Functions, and so forth. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to simplify a function by factoring, and we're going to begin by following these three key steps. You're going to factor the numerator and denominator. 2, cancel common factors since they're forms of 1, and never cancel pieces of functions, which is a very common mistake. Rewrite what is left as a new fraction. So the first step was to factor numerator and denominator. So we look up here and we see that it has a GCF of x. And what's left is x plus 4. In the denominator, we see that we can rewrite this as the product of two binomials, x plus 4 and x minus 2. So that concludes step 1. The next thing we look for is if there are any common factors that make forms of 1. So that would be anything in the numerator and the denominator that when you divide them by each other, it gives you a form of 1. So that's x plus 4 over x plus 4. Then we look and see if there's anything further. Now, you may be tempted to cancel this x with the x down here. However, this x is part of the function x minus 2, and this would graph a line, and this would also graph a line y equals x. If we were to cancel out the x's, we would have just the line y equals negative 2, which is not anything like what we would be graphing. So we are left with x over x minus 2. Okay? That is your final answer. Let's look at another one. In this case, we have a monomial over a binomial. You're going to still factor, but on the top here, it's a little bit different. Since it doesn't have anything to break down, you're going to leave it as 10x to the fifth. On the bottom, you look for a GCF, and in this case, it's 2x to the second power. What you have left is x plus 1. Now we look for any common factors. You see that 10 and 2 can be divided. When you do it, you get 5 over 1. Now this is the x to the fifth over x to the second. A quick way to do this is to remember that this is really x, 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 and x over 2 x's. When you divide, this makes a 1, and this makes a 1. So this is really 1 times 1 times, then we still have x, 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 so x to the third. An easier way to see this is that we have x to the 5 subtract 2, which gives us x to the third. So in any case, we're going to cancel out this x squared entirely. And then up here we have x to the third. There's nothing else to be canceled, so we're left with 5x to the third over x plus 1. And then this is our final answer, as we have two different functions. We have a cube function and a line, and they cannot cancel with each other. Okay, this one's got a binomial on the top and a trinomial on the bottom. First thing we're going to look for is a GCF. On the top it's 6x, or 6y rather, and we're left with y plus 3. On the bottom you're going to also look for a GCF. You see that 2 and y go into all three spots. After you factor that out, you're left with y squared minus 3y minus 18. You look to see if there's any other factoring that can be done before you consider yourself completed. You say, can you factor this trinomial? And the answer is yes, of course you can. So I'm just recopying the numerator here. 6y over y plus 3. On the bottom you have 2y, and then we can factor this to y minus 6 and y plus 3. Then we look for forms of 1. So the first thing we notice is that the 6 and the 2 will simplify to 3 over 1. Y divided by y gives us a form of 1. And y plus 3 over y plus 3 gives us a form of 1. On the top, we're left with a 3. And on the bottom, we're left with y minus 6. Again, like in similar problems, you cannot cancel down the 3 and the 6. That would be considered to be canceling pieces. So 3 over y minus 6 is our answer. Here's another one with a binomial over a trinomial. And I suggest you pause right now and see if you can answer it by yourself. And then when you've answered it, see if you can get the same results I do. So go ahead and push pause. All right, by now you should have solved the problem. And now you're going to watch how I would solve this problem. I'm going to factor the numerator to y plus 4. And that goes in parentheses, and y minus 1. In the denominator, you have a common factor of 7y. Then you're left with y squared plus y minus 2. And you realize that this trinomial will simplify even further. So you have y plus 4 and then you have y minus 1. In the denominator, you have 7y, y plus 2, and y minus 1. Now you look for any common factors. And really in this problem, not much is in common. On the top and the bottom, the only thing they have in common is y minus 1. So then you're going to rewrite this as y plus 4. Nothing else cancels out. The trick is that you're going to be wanting to be tempted to cancel out everything. And you cannot. So then you're left with 7y times y plus 2. And you're not simplified if there's still parentheses in your answer, so you need to distribute to be done. The bottom, you get 7y squared plus 14y. And this is your final answer. So this concludes the lesson on simplifying. Our next video will be on multiplication of rational functions.